Hello, welcome to another episode of Lammy's Reviews, where you get to listen to me ramble on about tech and hopefully that helps you in your next purchase decision. Anyway, I'm going to follow up on my unboxing video last week on the Canon EOS R5, and I'm going to focus my review today on its video capabilities and what it means for the videographer. This camera comes with a lot of new features such as dual card slots, 8K RAW, 4K 60, 4K 120, all these advanced features, but does it work well? We'll find that out. But before that, I want to read out some marketing quotes from Canon themselves. The EOS R5 Uncompromising performance will revolutionize your photography and filmmaking. Canon UK. The EOS R5 camera proves to be a reliable partner in virtually any climate. Whatever you shoot, however you shoot, the EOS R5 will let you be creative in ways you simply couldn't be before. Groundbreaking video performance. Does it live up to the hype? Let's find out. Moving on, let's talk about video capabilities of this camera. Simply put, it's quite amazing. 8K RAW video, 4K 120, 4K 60, 4K high quality. Wow, all these features. But you know what? All these features come with one asterisk here, one asterisk there. And before you know it, there's quite a few asterisks everywhere. And that really limits its capability, actually, I reckon. So let's start off with the good, shall we? So 8K, that is just simply amazing. Like, you can capture like 35 megapixels of photos from a frame in an 8K video. But that comes with caveats. 8K can only be shot mostly on the CF Express Type B cards. But there is one single mode that you can use to shoot 8K on a normal SD card, but you also need a V90 card. Otherwise, it is not fast enough. I've tried on a V30 card, it is not fast enough. And at that mode, with a 32 gig card, which I had a V90 card of, it gives me 5.5 minutes of shooting at 8K. That is it. So with a 120 gig card, you'll probably get like 20 minutes of shooting and that's it. But you probably won't get that far anyway, as you can see from our overheating test later. Using the new in-body stabilizer and in tandem with your lenses built-in optical image stabilization, it looks like you're holding a tripod almost. I was walking quite naturally on a normal pace, and as you can see, I didn't make any efforts to really stabilize it, and you can see some wobbles here and there. The digital stabilization that was present on the EOS R is still here. You can use it, but I don't recommend it. It looks like that really digital and wobbly look that just makes it look artificial. But you know what's really amazing? I was able to handhold a 7200 at 200 mm with a single hand. And my hand was shaking, but the footages that come out of there was actually quite good. Starting off, let's look at the 1080p footage. We've got IPB Light, IPB and OI. As you can see, they all look kind of similar with a slight edge to the OI. Moving on to 4K, as you can see, the 4K HQ setting on the right looks a lot clearer even from a non-zoomed in state. Zooming in, 4K HQ on the right definitely has an advantage here. The 4K on the left and the center are all pixel binning or line skipping versions, low quality versions of 4K. As you can see, it is a lot softer. For this next one, I really wanted to compare the modes that most people will want to use out of this Canon EOS R5. On the left, you have the 4K all-eye line skipping or pixel binning version of 4K. In the middle, you have 4K high quality, which is a downsampled source from 8K. And on the right, you have 8K. As you can see, the jump from 4K to 4K HQ to 8K is humongous, each step giving you gradual increase in quality. I just want to add that 4K HQ and 8K will result in overheating. There's no way around it, it will overheat, where OI requires a fast card to shoot. Next up, we have rolling shutter tests. At 1080p, it's not too bad. At 4K 30, it gets a little bit more, a bit more wobbly, but by 4K 60, 4K HQ and 8K, it is becoming an issue. The autofocus system is probably one of the best I've ever used. It is fast, it's accurate, and it just performs really well. Here, I selected the middle pillar and it locks on no problems, switching back and forth between all of them. Animal autofocus also works quite well. Locked onto this little dog, even with his back turned. So right now I'm recording from the Canon EOS R5. What you're hearing now is the onboard audio recording. It sounds not bad, but it definitely doesn't compare to a dedicated recorder such as the Zoom H5 that I usually record my reviews with, which is around 30 centimeters away from me. The Canon EOS 5 on the other hand is around 2 meters away from me right now. Let's talk about grading C-Log. I reckon C-Log is really powerful and it's really easy to use. Canon provides the free LUTs available on the website, and as you can see, it looks pretty flat at the moment. But with one click in DaVinci Resolve, I can apply the LUT and it looks like this. Nice, right? Also, another downside is, whilst Canon gives you 8K RAW, it doesn't give you 4K or 1080p RAW, but I don't get it. Why don't you just put it in? 4K RAW will be pretty useful, 4K 30 or 4K 60 RAW, even 1080p RAW. For people who don't need that resolution, but want that flexibility of RAW files, it would be amazing. And of course, no review can finish without talking about the overheating issues. Just to let everybody know, it was around 19 or 20 degrees indoors in my room here, so I guess it's kind of close to Canon's typical operating temperature. The only V90 card I got that is capable of shooting this 4K high quality mode in 30 frames per second is only 32 gigs. So what I did, I started filming, and once it filled up, I quickly formatted it, and then I just started recording again in order to finish these tests. So that managed around 20 to 21 minutes before overheating, with the overheating symbol coming up at around a 17 to 18 minute mark. So it gives you roughly 3 minutes of warning before it automatically shuts down. And after shutting down, I couldn't shoot it anymore. I couldn't shoot anything anymore. No 4K 60, no 4K 120, no 8K, I just couldn't shoot. But I could drop down to 4K 30 and keep shooting there if I really wanted to. 4K 30 did not overheat. In the same conditions, I was able to shoot 4K 30 continuously, non-stop, and that was really good. I tested for over an hour and it was fine. While the Canon EOS R5 can only shoot 8K for around 20 minutes, on a separate occasion from a cold start, I tried shooting high quality 4K 30 footage to see how long that lasts. With high quality, it fares a little bit better. I managed 29 minutes, almost 30 minutes from shooting high quality 4K 30. And similar to 8K, it gave me 3 minutes before it shut down. So what I did was I left it for 10 to 15 minutes completely off, and that gave me 10 more minutes. I gave it another 15 minutes and I got 15 minutes of recording time. So in total, I waited half an hour, almost half an hour, just to get 15 extra minutes of recording. And you know what else I've realized? You know, before even shooting, the camera already starts heating up before it starts shooting. Like, for example, when I'm framing this, there's a lot of time where I'm like moving back and forth, tweaking the camera and making sure all the settings are correct. All that time is taken into account and it eats into your shooting time. So there you have it. So to conclude, what do you think of this camera? Well, in my opinion, I think this is a very capable camera, but it also highly depends on what type of videographer you are. If you're a working videographer who do a lot of events, a lot of weddings, a lot of, long shooting documentary style shots, I think you really got to reconsider. I mean, it's got a lot of features. It's got 8K, 4K 120, 4K 60, but all these modes are locked behind this overheating limit. But anyhow, that is not the real issue. The real issue is the reliability of the camera. You can't rely on a camera which sometimes gives you 5 minutes, sometimes gives you 10 minutes, sometimes gives you 15 minutes after like 20 minutes of shooting, take a few photos and you gain an extra 5 minutes. That is just too unreliable. To the professionals who actually requires that reliability, I think you should look elsewhere. However, if you understand the limitations of this camera and you're okay with it and you can shoot around it, it's one of the best cameras. It's actually the best camera out there. It's got 8K, which is unmatched in quality, as shown in our video quality tests. And its autofocus, it is one of the fastest and sharpest I've ever seen. And also, the color grading from C-Log gives you a lot of flexibility. Although, from the audio front, if you're a working professional videographer, you probably won't rely on onboard audio anyway. So I think if you can live with its limitations, this could be a good camera for you also. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to the price of admission. At the current price of admission, I don't feel like that you're getting much value from it unless you're shooting constantly on 8K or 4K 120 or 4K 60 or 4K 30 in high quality. and those all result in overheat and unreliability. However, if you don't shoot those modes, then the biggest question is, why do you need this camera? You could get other similar cameras which at half the price from 2018, which do exactly the same thing, pixel binning and line skipping. So you really have to think about what kind of videographer you are to answer the question whether this is the right camera for you. How do you shoot? Where do you shoot? Purely from a video perspective, I don't feel like this is the right camera for me, but it could be the right camera for you. You really have to ask yourself those tough questions. Let me out.